Welcome back, my friends, to the second episode in this series on City Skylines, and look at that on the right-hand side. We got some rubble from an abandoned building. Not good, not good, but the city is actually doing fine. And I thought we'd start this episode off with a cinematic, and then I think the game just stuttered, right as I said that, right? I guess the recording process isn't perfect as of yet. Let's get out of photo mode and into our city. Yes, this is a collapsed building from a lack of maintenance. What was going on there? Alright, there's an arriving vehicle, a fire engine. Apparently it's been dispatched, and there it is over there. Mate, I think you're a little bit late. The building burned down. Now there's another one here now as well. Obviously we've got some problems to solve, but we're in the early stages of development and we need to expand, and I've been expanding the grid a little bit, just trying to make it a bit more interesting, as it was starting to get a bit dull. And I've been rather fortunate that our industry area over on this side of the island is compatible with specialized industry, because these actually have to be built on certain types of land. So we're going to be able to build some of that down here for grain farming, for livestock, and then for forestry we've obviously got a lot of trees in the area. When it comes to stone and coal, we've got a very small deposit over here, but we'll be taking advantage of that at some point in the future. This episode, though, I want to be focusing on these industries. And before we get to that, I left you with a little problem at the end of the last episode. It was this roundabout. Let's go ahead and speed up the game, because we'll see that occasionally pedestrians just walk straight across the road. If we look at another one of our roundabouts, you'll see that we've actually got pedestrian crossings here. That encourages them to cross the road there, but it doesn't stop them, is what I've learned. But anyway, the problem was that we had a huge amount of pedestrian traffic, and then that was influencing the traffic of road vehicles. So the solution was to remove some of those crosswalks from the roundabouts, and then install these walkways that go across our main arteries. Now over time I'm probably going to end up installing these at pretty much every roundabout, but I'm going to do that when it's needed. So let's talk about how to do this. First of all, the elevation tool down here. If you reduce this to the lowest step, it allows you to change the height elevation to 6.25, and this is the lowest that your path can be if you want to cross over a road. Now as you can see, this slope is too steep, but if I go up by 1, I'm able to place that here, and then the game actually creates a connection to the road anyway. On this side the game is a little more forgiving. You can actually put it down to 0, but that's just a tip for you right there that might come in handy. So it's down here in the road services tab that we can create some adjustments to our roads. For example, you can add a crosswalk. If I just hover over this intersection, you can see how it would get added, but if we right click, then we can remove them. Look at that. So intersections like this, if we remove some of these crosswalks, we'll encourage our pedestrians to use the bridge over here to get to the other side of the area. And that should let our vehicle traffic just flow a little better if we reduce the amount of these. One of the biggest causes here though is actually parking. These car parks are all full, and most of the traffic just comes from cars trying to get in and get out of these parking spots, and we put it right next to a busy junction, so I need to relocate these a little further out. And luckily for us there is a relocate tool, so we can actually move the car park we've got, put it over here, and look at that, it actually brings all of the cars that are parked with it. So hopefully these relocation efforts help, but as you can see, traffic's still a bit of an issue here, so I'll come back and make some more changes in the future. And there are more tools available to us down here. We can add stop signs and we can manipulate which direction the traffic can go in by adding these signs. We've also got traffic lights, and I think we only have one set in the entire city, and it's right here. And I want to remove those. They usually slow down traffic in my experience. But due to the way that we put roundabouts pretty much everywhere, I don't think I've got a lot of traffic lights to remove. Now before we get to expanding our industry, what I want to do is focus on this happiness meter down here. This is extremely useful. I found the clues that are given here to be immediately addressable. So the first one is high crime, and we have a police station over here, but it never seems to reach this area. Now that could be because we don't have enough police cars, and we can actually get a garage extension and send more police cars out on patrol. So if we do that and then zoom in, sometimes you see the cars coming out straight away. Okay, we just had 5 employees join all at once, and then immediately a police car went out. So this services area wasn't very central, and that's fine. We're probably not going to put a crazy amount of services over here, but a spot that is way more central on this island is this bit right here. And I've designed the road layout so that the service vehicles can get in and out really easy in lots of different directions. Once again, the grid has become rather messed up because once that happens, it is really hard to get away from it. So as you know, we can relocate a building, but I'm actually going to put a secondary police station in this area. And with that in place, we can now consider that we have unreliable healthcare coverage in the city. So that means that we're going to need another medical clinic. We then have an unreliable internet service. So with communications, there is the telecom tab, and we need to put in a radio mast. And if you watched the last episode, you know that we can get kind of cheeky with this, right? Am I going the right way? Yep, that's being raised. Okay, I'm really not sure if I want to put this in my city like that or not, but if we go and put this on top of the hill, you would expect for the coverage to get better, but I think because I've done this with the landscaping tool, it doesn't treat it the same way, but you can see it blocks out the signal. So for some reason, putting it over here is a lot better, and I think it's actually because buildings block the signal from spreading. I'll tell you what, once you start messing with the terrain, it can be really tricky to get it back to normal. I think I'm just going to leave this as is. We could call it a feature. Well, that was a major distraction, but due to the way that our city is laid out, we can probably space these out at the different roundabout junctions. The only thing is that it's really quite ugly to have these towers, so I think we might be able to replace them with other things later on. Okay, and now coverage is looking pretty good. Right, and crime is still an issue in the city. We're going to get more patrol vehicles over here, and we're going to get more ambulances on our healthcare system. And then we're going to adjust our budget too, which is something that I haven't done too much of yet. We're going to put a little more money into policing. And I think it's far more likely that crime might be linked to education and wealth. So as you can see, we've got some high rent in the low rent housing that we have here. Although it does say that they're wealthy. So another thing we can do is adjust taxation here. I think it's a little too early on to make some big adjustments as of yet, but as you can see, you can break this down into the different wealth of your residents, so we can make the taxes in the city cheaper for poorer residents. So I decided to unlock the crematorium. We've also just reached Boomtown, and now I think we've pretty much addressed these issues. You can see we've got a nice green smiley face down here. Although we did skip on the mail service, and this is pretty straightforward to set up. So we want ourselves a post office. We'll go ahead and put this in our central area. And then all we have to do is jot down the mailboxes every so often. And what I like to do is put them on intersections like this so that, you know, the foot traffic can come from all directions. Okay, and with these spots, I think we've covered the city pretty well so far. Oh, and I think we've reached the limits of what our coal power can provide to the city. This reminds me of something else that I wanted to mention. As you can see, I've unlocked the tile behind, which gives us access to this. Although what I want to do is put these cables underground so that we can't see them. Let's go ahead and connect this up to the grid. Might as well go ahead and buy this tile. And now we can make that connection. The reason I wanted to do this is because we can sell excess electricity to neighboring cities through connecting it to the outside grid. That'll also work in reverse, I believe. Yeah, when we look at the electricity tab here, you can see that there are revenues for exporting electricity, but also for importing it too. Aha, the issue was that we didn't have a transformer station, and now you can see the power lines are animated. Right, stuff is coming in. So if we produced an excess here, we'd probably see the power flowing the other way. Okay, now that problem is solved. Right, we're going to work on expanding the population and then developing industry over in that direction. So as you'll see over here, some more areas have been zoned out. I'm just doing this slow and steady so we can keep an eye on any emerging problems. But now that we're at Boomtown level, we have unlocked this right here, which is EU mixed housing. So this puts commercial on the bottom and then denser housing up top. And by the way, this is a row of denser housing here next to the lowest. So currently residents have to migrate to this block for their commercial needs, but we're always going to do this in each residential area, just have a couple of blocks that are actually mixed, and I'm going to have it be those corners, and then we'll go with some medium density in these blocks. And based on how many cars are parked around here, it's obvious that we're going to need some more parking too. Now we get to turn our attention to this area here, which is going to be for specialized industry. We are going to create some livestock farming, grain farming, vegetable, and textile fiber over here. And the road that we have here is actually a little too close to the fertile land, so I've redone the roads so that we got these over on this side. We're going to build the next two on the opposite. And an important tip here, you see this blinking? I'm sure it'll get fixed, but you want to click when you actually see the building, otherwise you'll run into some issues. And then the next bit is kind of like you've seen with landfill. Now we want to go out to about the middle here between the two lots and try and divide this into quarters. Okay then, what do you think of that? I think this view might be a little better. I think the fields on this side are maybe slightly bigger, but either way, we've split it into 4 sections. And I think I might turn off the snapping and just add like a footpath around the outside here to give it a bit more of a border. Oh yeah, that is actually really making a difference. Oh, that looks so cool. So what happens now that we've created this? Well, if we go to the city economy tab and go into production, we will now start to produce some of these materials. But as you can see on the side, we actually have a deficit. And that's because we're currently importing them. So when we produce these ourselves, I think it means that you pay less money for importing them, but also they don't have to come from outside of the city. They'll be distributed from these spots to the various industry that uses them. And I'm going to go ahead and zone out some industry right next door too. So the next phase is just a matter of time, but as we leave the industry running in our world, it slowly levels up. And then over here, our production slowly goes up. As you can see, with some of these industries, we could get enough to reach our demand over here, our deficit, but with others, it would take a lot more space. In fact, for grain, it's around 10 times the space. Maybe we could build a bit of that industry over here. Maybe in this spot if we redid the road. And then on the rest of the map, there's clearly like lots of patches you can take advantage of. Although I think it shows us these patches further beyond the tiles that we can buy. Yeah, like way off into the distance it'll show you stuff. Now these industries do emit a little bit of pollution. I think we could give it a try over in this space and see if the local residents will tolerate it. Remember that bug that I mentioned earlier? This is what happens if you place it incorrectly. I just totally didn't notice. Can I relocate to the same spot? Oh, and we've unlocked something. Okay, looks like I've got to go and redo the region. Ah, there we go. Now, I thought I would experiment with the grain, which is the one we needed the most of, for just having these strips and seeing if this optimizes the use of the land. Giving a large amount of it to one building might not be the way to go, so we're experimenting here. Now, what about that signature building that we unlocked? This was in the industry tab, and this will give us export profits and industry efficiency. Oh, and you can see it's a rather large building. And with these builds, I find it's a nice way to decorate the city, to put unique buildings in. So at the end of this road and the roundabout, I mean, it's a bit miserable, the weather right now, but okay, I had this toggled on down here, which was making it really moody. There you go, we've got our dairy house at the end of the road, looking really cool. So while we've been expanding, we've hit Boomtown and Busy Town, and the thing we've unlocked here that I'm interested in is the advanced pollution management, because we don't want our pollution to get out of hand. And this is a district policy, so if we come over here to this industrial area and just highlight it like so, it's extremely convenient to do this with the way we've laid out our roads. And when it's done, it creates a name in the middle that you can click on, and then up here you can set some district policies. However, this one was actually a citywide policy, and I'd not clicked on this button before until I learned this. So there's a whole bunch of expanded information here I need to have a look at. But we've got the city policies tab, and now we're going to go with advanced pollution management. Oh my god, there's a tornado on the edge of our city. And I've just expanded some residential over here. Oh my goodness me, look at that. This is terrifying. Oh, and there's wildfires off in the distance. Okay, that thing vanished. I'd not been paying attention because I've been zoning out a big residential expansion. I think we're now ready to expand even further. Oh, and using the district tool, I also created these like squares for each of this, which is kind of nice. I want to come up with a better naming scheme that sort of tells you what it's for and when it was built. Anyways, one thing I'm sure of is that we're going to need another elementary school because this one is getting full up. But we do have upgrades. What we can do is increase the capacity over here for now. And then we can put a park nearby as well. Let's go ahead and attach that on the side. And then we're going to put another elementary school like right in the middle of this block. Also going to dot around a few parks just before we start zoning the area out. And since we have demand for commercial, we're going to start with a couple of these mixed blocks. And then let's zone in some low density here and there. And something important I want to do that I showed you at the beginning of this video is to create a connection. I need to turn the snapping back on. Yeah, a diagonal connection across this intersection. Huh, and it looks like it'll let you finish off this thing with quite a steep slope. Yeah, that's really bizarre that it lets you do that. And that should help with foot traffic from our residential that wants to come over here and do some shopping. What's going to help even more is setting up public transport, but I'm not quite ready for that. Now, check this out. You can add a crossing here like so, if you just attach it to the side of the road. So if we do that for these two spots, then you'll see we create a connection for these suburbs to walk even further to get all the way over here. One of the things that bugs me with this game is down the bottom here, we have a ton of commercial demand, yet a lot of our buildings say not enough customers, and I have not really expanded this area at all. And let's just do a quick traffic check. It looks really good across the city. Where some of these roads get a little orange and red, you can zoom in and you can kind of see that there's not actually a lot of activity going on there. The thing to look at is traffic flow, and our traffic flow at the moment is really good. So it's probably just because these roads have slower speed limits that it causes it to look orange and red on the map. But yeah, it seems like our idea is really working. Now, I think we need to shape the future of this town a little different by focusing on education. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock the college. And by building this, we should be able to better educate our citizens, which should help create some office demand, as we only had a small amount for that. I think I want to turn this block here into like an educational space. We could go ahead and just unlock the university now as well. And you'll see this thing is like even bigger. So we could have the university over here, the college in this space. Do you remember in my last video how I talked about these edges that appear? We've kind of avoided that a lot already, but you can see it's clearly sloped up. I'm going to go ahead and push this over to the opposite. Oh, it's actually worse when we do it like that. Okay, so these tools I haven't talked about much because I'm still mastering them a little bit, but if I right click with this, it kind of brings it down. Looks relatively decent. If we use the softening tool, just smooths it out a bit. And yeah, look at that. Okay, that fits in much better now. I might actually get rid of these roads down here. They sort of feel a little bit redundant. So if we end up needing some more spaces for big buildings, we could, yeah, redesign that part. But this has reminded me of our signature buildings. We've got another one over here we've unlocked. I think we should absolutely put that opposite the school. That's quite complimentary. And we got the theatre actor mansion as well. Right, this spot right here has been rather neglected. It kind of looks like it'd fit in relatively well. Yep, that looks good in that area. I have also neglected parks. Let's put one of these on each of the corners. This is just a great way to boost the happiness of the people nearby. Oh, and they are on quite a derpy looking hill here. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, this is the stuff I wanted to avoid, and I didn't really notice that. Let's conduct a zoning experiment here and just take off like a portion like that right in the middle of the slope. So that's bad news for these buildings, but when they rebuild, they're going to be smaller, so we do away with that silliness in the middle. But then we get this problem. Okay, I could probably smooth that out with the terrain tool. Okay, there's this slope terrain tool, but I've never really had much success with it. I mean, I'm right-clicking and left-clicking. Try changing the brush size a bit. It's really just not working. I'm not sure if these tools need an improvement or I just don't know what I'm doing. It's probably the latter. And you know what? I think we can tolerate that for now. Oh yeah, and there's more of it going on over here with the park we just added. And that's what I just distracted myself from. I want to get some bigger parks. Oh yeah, we've also got park maintenance, okay. And then larger parks. You see, we can create some quite big and beautiful ones here. Like there, that's going to line up with that so good. Go on then, let's throw that in. Oh, they're going to love that. Ha, and now we got the park maintenance depot. Okay, that definitely goes in our secondary services area. And I could have swore that I renamed this earlier. Oh, and this reminds me that I also created something off camera. That is the road maintenance depot. And I kind of wish I hadn't done it off camera because as you can see, when we open up this info view, all of our roads are green because they're being maintained. And when I started, they were actually kind of red, and then all these vehicles rolled out and you watched them all change from red to green. It was really cool, but now they just go out there and keep the roads maintained. So I've been going around the city, slowly tweaking things here and there, working on some new layouts off in the distance, and realizing that the terrain, though it seems flat, even the slightest of hills really messes with the grid. I'm probably going to sound like a broken record here, but I'm starting to see more how it's probably the terrain that ends up breaking it up. And I'm struggling to get the city going. I think it should be further developed by now compared to my last playthrough. And so I've been trying to think about what it is that I'm missing. And it's probably spending some of our development points to unlock other things. And public transport is definitely going to help, but I want to do that in the next episode. So we're going to try and find something to help us out right now. And I think we might try the welfare office over here, which provides support for low-income citizens. Okay, and this is a big one. I'm actually going to put it on a main road, which I don't normally do. Now it's not bumping into this building. Yeah, as we get a few more big ones like this, we'll probably just relocate them and make the layout much nicer. And something else that can help is just generally easing the pressures of taxation. I'm just going to knock everything down a notch and see if that bumps things into gear. But we are not making that much money. We were making like 25,000 earlier, so we've lost quite a bit. And we're not paying that much for electricity coming from outside the city, just 7,000. But I guess one of the things we could do is unlock some more types of power. I thought coal is what we were already using. Okay, so this is a small coal power plant. What about putting... Oh my goodness me. Again, the size of these buildings. Okay, for now I think I'm going to go with a more green solution. And look at this. It automatically connects to the grid based on the road it's placed next to. And I've always liked the look of these things, but I tell you what, they are absolutely massive. If you're down here on the street, you'll see them off in the distance. Yeah, things are just not picking up in this place like last time. I mean, the college has 100 students and the university just 30. Now look at this, 46 students going to the high school? It just struck me. I know what the secret ingredient is. It's time. We're now actually sped up the game, and I've just left it running for a little while. And what I've started to notice is that we're getting more students into the university and the college as well, a lot more in here. Yeah, our citizens need time to grow up and go to school and high school and get that education. And once they do, we'll then have more office demands. So I zoned out a bit more space over here. And since I've sped up the game, slowly these zones have been filling in. And if we click on them, we'll probably see the employee numbers are ticking up as our educated citizens are growing up and then coming over here to work. This has brought the population up to just under 9,000. Now it's over 9,000. And if we look at how much money we're making, there we go. We solved the problem. We're up to 14,000 now. Now this is what I did with my last city. I actually spent a lot of time just leaving the game running. I was doing other things. I was letting the city develop, and that's what gets it into a good spot. You got to give it some time to breathe and grow. But anyway, I think we're now ready to implement transport in the next video. So I'll be bringing that to the channel soon. Subscribe if you want to catch it. Thank you for checking out this one, and I'll see you soon for another episode of City Skylines. Bye bye.